He stepped in to protect a stranger's child. No one expected the outcome sometimes. A single moment tests who we really are. A moment when it would be easier to look away, to mind our own business, and to keep walking. But every now and then, someone chooses differently, and that choice changes lives in ways no one could ever predict. This is one of those stories. A story about an ordinary man, an unexpected act of courage, and how kindness, when offered without hesitation, can come back in ways that feel almost unbelievable. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that restore your faith in humanity, take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. This is Kindness Story Hub, where we believe even the smallest good deed can create the biggest ripple. Ethan Miller had never thought of himself as brave. He was 38, worked long hours as a delivery driver, and lived alone in a small apartment just outside Columbus, Ohio. Most days were a blur of traffic lights, coffee cups, and tight schedules. He wasn't rich. He wasn't powerful. He was just trying to get through life one delivery at a time. On that cold Saturday afternoon, Ethan had finished his last drop-off early. Snow from the night before still lined the sidewalks in dirty white piles. He decided to stop by a small grocery store near his apartment to pick up a few things for dinner. Nothing about the day felt special. It felt like any other day. As Ethan stepped out of the store, plastic bag in hand, he heard shouting. At first, he ignored it. Cities are noisy places. Arguments happen. But then he heard a child crying. Not the fussy kind of crying. This was sharp, scared, and desperate. Ethan turned toward the sound. Across the parking lot, near an old blue sedan, a woman stood frozen in place. She looked to be in her early 20s, thin, wearing a worn jacket that was clearly not warm enough. Beside her, a little boy, maybe 4 or 5 years old, clung to her leg, sobbing. Standing in front of them was a large man with a red face and clenched fists. He was yelling, his voice echoing across the lot. People walked past, heads down, pretending not to notice. Ethan's heart started pounding. He couldn't hear every word, but he caught enough. The man was accusing the woman of scratching his car. She kept shaking her head, saying she didn't do it, that she didn't even own a car. Her voice trembled. The child cried louder. Ethan felt the familiar urge to stay out of it. This wasn't his problem. The man looked angry. Strong. Unpredictable. But then the man took a step closer to the woman. Too close. Something shifted inside Ethan. Before he could talk himself out of it, he set his grocery bag down and walked over. "Hey," Ethan said, keeping his voice calm but firm. "Is there a problem here?" The angry man turned toward him, eyes narrowing. "Yeah. This woman messed up my car." "Mind your business." Ethan glanced at the woman. Her eyes were wide with fear. The child pressed his face into her coat. "I don't see any damage," Ethan said. "And even if there was, this isn't how you handle it. There's a kid here." The man scoffed. "You trying to be a hero?" Ethan swallowed. His hands were shaking, but he didn't back away. "I'm just saying, let's slow this down." For a moment, Ethan thought he'd made a huge mistake. The man stepped closer, invading his space. Ethan could smell alcohol on his breath. "You got a problem?" the man growled. Ethan stood his ground. "Not unless you make one." A long, tense silence hung in the cold air. Then, unexpectedly, someone else spoke up. An older woman from across the lot called out, "Leave them alone." Another man stopped walking and stared openly. The angry man looked around, suddenly aware of the attention. He cursed under his breath, threw his hands up, and stomped back to his car. "This isn't over," he muttered before driving away. The parking lot felt quiet again, like everyone was holding their breath. Ethan turned to the woman. "Are you okay?" She nodded, though tears ran down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "I didn't know what to do." The little boy peeked out from behind her leg, his cheeks red, eyes watery. He looked at Ethan like he was trying to understand what just happened. "What's his name?" Ethan asked gently. "Lucas," the woman said. "He's my son." Ethan crouched down. "You did great, buddy. You're safe now." Lucas sniffed and gave a tiny nod. The woman introduced herself as Maria. She explained that she worked 2 part-time jobs and had been walking home when the man started yelling at her, accusing her of damaging his car. She said no one stopped until Ethan did. "I was scared," she admitted. "I thought he might hurt us." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. I'm glad I was there. Before they parted ways, Ethan offered to walk them home. Maria hesitated but agreed. They lived only a few blocks away, in a small, rundown apartment complex. As they walked, Maria shared bits of her life. She had moved to Ohio after leaving an abusive relationship. Money was tight. Every day felt like survival. When they reached her building, Maria stopped. I don't have much, she said, but I want you to know you made a difference today. You protected my child. Ethan shrugged, uncomfortable with praise. Anyone would have done the same. But even as he said it, he knew that wasn't true. Weeks passed. Life went on. Ethan returned to his routine. He told no one about the parking lot incident. To him, it was just something he did because it felt right. Then one afternoon, his phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. Hello? Ethan answered. Is this Ethan Miller? A woman's voice asked. Yes. My name is Karen Lewis. I'm calling from a legal aid organization in Columbus. We received a letter mentioning you by name. Ethan frowned. A letter? Karen explained that Maria had written to them. She was trying to regain full custody of Lucas and needed witnesses who could speak to her character and the dangers she faced. In her letter, she described the parking lot incident in detail and how a stranger stepped in to protect her child. She said you showed courage and compassion when no one else did, Karen said. Would you be willing to give a statement? Ethan was stunned. He had no idea his small act mattered that much. Of course, he said. A month later, Ethan found himself sitting in a modest courtroom. Maria sat across the room, holding Lucas's hand. She smiled when she saw Ethan. When it was his turn to speak, Ethan told the truth. He talked about what he saw, the fear in Maria's eyes, and how she put her child first. He didn't exaggerate. He didn't perform. He just spoke from the heart. The judge listened quietly. Weeks later, Ethan received a message from Maria. She had won. She was granted full custody of Lucas and access to housing support through a local program connected to the legal aid organization. You helped save my family, the message read. I will never forget you. Ethan sat on his couch, phone in hand, tears streaming down his face. He had stepped in for a few minutes on a cold afternoon, and it had changed the course of two lives, but the story didn't end there. Months later, Ethan's delivery company announced layoffs. His name was on the list. For the first time in years, Ethan felt afraid. Bills piled up. Savings ran thin. One morning, he received an email from a nonprofit organization. They were opening a new community outreach program focused on family safety and conflict prevention. They were looking for someone with real-life experience and strong character. Maria had recommended him. Ethan applied. He got the job now. Every day, Ethan works helping families navigate difficult moments, teaching de-escalation, and reminding people that stepping in safely and responsibly can change everything. Sometimes, he still thinks about that parking lot. About how close he came to walking away, and how grateful he is that he didn't, because kindness doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't wear a cape. Sometimes, it's just a regular person choosing to stand between fear and a child, and when we choose kindness, even for a moment, we never know how far it will travel. So the next time you see someone in need, remember this story. Remember that your courage, your compassion, your willingness to step in could become someone else's turning point, and that is the true power of kindness.